You, yo, mic check. Steve, you there?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, cool. Marty there. We heard Marty. Marty will be back. Don't worry about that, man. Welcome to Mon Tings, man. Another episode of Mon Tings, man. This is a special episode. I got a great dude here with me. Um, I got my man Marty here with me as per usual. You know what I'm saying? And we here to just have some great conversation. Usually we just be up here talking, but we can't really talk by ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We need the professionals to pop in and help us out. You know what I'm saying? So we had to get a professional to pop in and help us out. What's good, Colt? Yo, Colton said, "What's up, Steve?"
What's going on? What's going on? Happy to be here.
Yeah. Hold on, let me move this
Yeah.
to the side. Move this chat box to the side, man. All right, man. Let's do it. Man. Let's do it. Marty then cammed up. Let's go, man. Marty, how you feeling, man? How you been? Hold on. Let me make sure. Let me make sure you good. Let me make sure your audio Gucci. You should be fine, bro. You should be able to unmute. You can unmute.
I hear you. I hear you.
You hear him?
Yep, I hear him.
All right, cool. I can't hear him on my side. That's weird.
Hear him. You
Hmm.
can hear me, right, Trey?
I can hear you perfectly. I'm trying to press the. It says it's muted, but I'm trying to unmute it, and it's not letting me, which is weird. Hold on. There we go. All right, Marty, you straight.
All right.
Yeah. Marty, what's good, man? How you been? How you feeling, man?
My man, just tired, the usual.
How's being back at work been? I know you was going through it, man.
Well, I'm gonna start off by saying, the good thing is that people ain't been bothering me. So like,
Right.
I just go in there and close my door, and then I go home when it's time. So like, it's been quiet. It's been quiet, but it's just that like now I'm really like going back outside, and
Uh huh.
like as far as the past year, like I've literally aside from the supermarket, I've only like been out like maybe 3, 4 times. So it's
Right.
like now that I'm back outside, I'm just looking at everything and I'm just like, ain't nobody learned nothing the past year because everybody, it look like it's 2019 right now outside.
It's turned up.
So
It's turned up outside right now. Not
yeah,
gonna hold you. It's lit. It's a
yeah.
zoovie
Yeah.
outside. You know how you
But
remember that shit? It's about to be a zoovie, nigga. It's out. They wilding already. I ain't mad at them, but they
yeah.
wilding though. They
Yeah.
wilding
One
though.
thing to me is crazy. It's crazy though because I know they said people don't have to wear masks no more, like sometime last week.
Hmm.
But like people ain't waste no time though. Like they took them masks right off. Like they didn't warm up or nothing.
They
Time
Hulk
to go.
Hogan. They Hulk Hogan them mask, bro.
Yeah.
Right out the t-shirt. Right out the t-shirt. They wasn't playing.
But I was in the gym. Cause like normally like I told you I get up early in the morning, so normally I go to the gym like 5 a.m. just to
Hmm.
get it out the way and nobody be in there. But I
Right.
went late. I went late the other day last week, and it happened to be the same day they stopped wearing masks, but I didn't
Hmm.
realize. So I'm in the gym. Somebody said something to me, but I don't be paying attention to be honest with you.
Right.
So I just did, went to go do what I was doing, but then it registered to me 10 minutes later. He had no mask on. Like I didn't realize it. So like I'm like, so I'm looking at something. I'm like, yo, I see his lips. Like why I see some lips? Like, I'm like, I see your nose. And then I looked around the gym. Nobody had mask on except for me. I was like, oh,
Oh nah.
y'all wildin'. Okay, I said, yeah, I'm not. I can't go to the gym no more. I'm over this now. Like, I'm like, if I ain't going at 5 a.m., I just ain't going now. So,
That's a fact.
but
You gotta stay safe out there, bro. Gotta stay safe
yeah.
out there, son.
How
Steve,
about
my bro,
how
how you been, man?
I've been good, man. And I've been peaceful, slightly overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
that word "good" is powerful for me because a lot of people say they're good, and it's just like f you, whatever. Like, move on with the
Yeah.
conversation. For a long
Right.
time, for a long time I haven't been good. So for me to say that it's
Yeah.
like peaceful, work is slightly overwhelming, but we'll get through that. It's nothing.
Hmm. Got you. I got you. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear, man.
Yeah.
I've been chilling. I'm chilling, man. Honestly, I was meh throughout the week. Now I'm in a better place. I think I was excited to have this conversation. So now it's like I had something to look forward to keep my spirits high. So I did. You know what I'm saying? Make sure I checked my energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be prepared for this. Because to me, this is huge for people to, hear you speak. And for me to have this platform for them to hear you speak because let's just get into Steve from now. When I first seen him, I just seen like his energy and his poise and the way he carried himself for a younger dude. And off rip, we went to St. John's together, by the way. Off rip, it was like something special about dude. You know what I'm saying? And I took initiative to really get to know him and build with him. And through the years we've built, you know what I'm saying, and built a real true brotherhood outside of the brotherhood. You know what I mean? That we're both a part of. And he's one of the dudes that were very pivotal in getting me into therapy and mental health. He's one of the first people I reached out to when I said I wasn't okay. You know what I'm saying? And he really, started me on this step of, self awareness, self improvement, and you know, taking the necessary steps to do so. You know what I mean? And it was crazy because, like I said, I seen him and I saw he was special, and then later on, he was one of the first people that helped me get on a path to start my life. You know what I'm saying? In the right path, and that's how kind of shit works beautifully. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of want to get into your story. You know what I'm saying? And let them know who you are. So I'm gonna just ask where you from and who are you?
No, 100%. Before I even touch on that, man, it's like it's kind of scary that you talk about giving people their flowers while they're here and all that.
Hmm.
It's like I had the thought or the assumption that you knew that you got me into therapy, meaning like as a clinician,
Right.
because of those. What's this now? 12 years ago, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You saying like, yo, Steve, your gift is reaching out to people, and that
Hmm.
always sat with me, you know. So that yeah, I appreciate you, Trey. You understand? So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as I'm
Likewise,
from
bro.
Brooklyn, New York, nah, no, 100%. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and what was the other question? I'm already
Um,
messing.
who are you?
Who am I? First and foremost, man, I'm a twin. I'm a brother, right? I'm a
Hmm.
son.
Hmm.
Um, a leader, so to speak. Some people would call it that, a servant leader, but a leader at that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And my
That's
most
powerful.
recent, yeah, leading from
Hmm.
behind, as they would say.
Right.
And my most recent role or responsibilities as a clinician. So I'm a licensed psychotherapist in the state of New York,
Hmm.
and I run a private practice right now.
That's dope.
Yeah,
That's dope, man. That's dope. And so I'm gonna ask you. You know what I'm saying? Like I know you, where you come from. Like you from Brooklyn. Like you one of those
yeah.
guys. Um, how were you able to make that transition into who and what you are now?
It's a long path. And I don't,
Right.
I don't bore y'all. If at any point I get bored, you just say, "Yo, Steve, shut the," you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's a long path because it's interesting. You described me as having a poise and the way I carried myself, but for a long time, I started off this way. When I was like 10, 12 years old, my grandmother described me as a ticking time bomb, right?
Hmm.
And at the time, I didn't really quite understood what she meant. In about 5 years, I come to realize, but
Yeah.
that's what I was. It was always like bottled up, like aggressiveness in a way, just growing up.
Hmm.
And what I did was, so I went through the whole growing up in Brooklyn thing,
Hmm.
always timid. I'm gonna be real with you. We can be honest, right?
Right.
Very timid, man, like to just scared. And
Hmm.
people would see aggressiveness because I trained myself that way. This
Right.
outward aggressiveness because I'm not that big, right?
Hmm.
So afraid of just being harmed and all that kind of stuff. So I went
Hmm.
through the trials and tribulations like anybody else in Brooklyn. I think a pivotal moment for me was getting robbed. At that point, that really it just shook me to the core, right?
Hmm.
This is the point where I started saying, like, I don't this whole life thing, I don't care about it. If it, a matter of 30 seconds or whatever my life could change, I don't really care about this too much.
Hmm.
So that's how I started off. I kind of pushed that to the side. Fast
Hmm.
forward, I'm gonna fast forward through a lot of this. I went to St. John's. I studied risk management and insurance. At that point, I didn't really care too much. By the time I got to St. John's, I didn't care about anything, really, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. I'm just like, all right, I gotta be here. What's gonna make the most money? So I went into risk management insurance, right?
Right.
Because they said, yo, this is the secret of the financial industry. It's a $4 trillion industry.
Hmm.
You work regular hours. You don't got to, you know what I mean? You make this much money. So I forget it. I'm going to go through it. Doing all the classes. I can't stand it, man. I really can't stand it. But I'm like, yo, this is just a means to an end. I do that. Now I'm in corporate America. If at any point it's not making no sense, just stop me. Feel free to
No, no,
cut me
no.
off.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So I'm in corporate America, and I would say I was clinically depressed. And if at some point in the conversation you want to talk about exactly what clinical depression is, we get
No, we're gonna
into
get
it.
into that. Yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah,
Let's get to your story first.
right. So I'm at a point where I don't want to be at work at all. Right. Every
Hmm.
day I get up, early in the morning. I'm putting a suit and tie on, and it feels like gravity is working against me. It's kind of like you ever go through like one of those revolving doors, and I'm
Yes.
gonna see if this analogy makes sense. It's kind of like I'm going through it and something's just pulling me back. You know, like the way it works, you got to kind of go with the momentum. If somebody's
Mm-hmm.
going in, then you go in with them. It's a gradual flow. But if you
Mm-hmm.
start at the beginning, it's like you got to push a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like every day I was pushing and pushing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, and I'm gonna make this very brief. I said, all right, what can I be good at? Or what would I like to do? And I remember the conversation we had those days in
Mm-hmm.
my course in the cafeteria for people that don't know that I was
Mm-hmm.
good at reaching out to people. And I said, you know what? I would like to be a psychologist. But I'm like, yo, I don't know if I want to go to school for that long, right?
Right.
So I started researching. I found a program at Columbia University for mental health counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Columbia. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply to Columbia. I know I'm not getting in. They're not going to accept the person from Brooklyn. This is what I'm thinking at the time, all those
Right.
automatic thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to give me a way out. So I'm going to say, at least you tried. It doesn't work. Now you're going 100%. I've always been ambitious, 100% with this corporate American thing. I
Mm-hmm.
applied. I got in. You know what I mean? Had a reputation for working with some of the most difficult populations. And by I mean like gang affiliated children,
Mm-hmm.
autism spectrum, sex offenders, all that, forgotten about people in a
Right.
certain way. And then that just led me to start interning, and now here I'm in private practice.
That's crazy, man. It's a wild trajectory. You know what I'm saying? To go from, I got 2 points. It's a wild trajectory to go from Brooklyn and then going to school, and then I had that same point where I just was like in corporate America, and I'm like, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, have I
Right,
been
right.
on cruise control for this fucking long? And it was like, yo, that, like you said, that clinical depression you started to really kick in. So I wanted to ask you about that.
Well,
Clinical depression. Can you define that for the
yeah,
people that's listening?
100%. I'm so happy I'm one of it. I don't know if y'all can see it. I'm naturally a very fidgety person. I have a lot of energy, so I'm be
Hmm.
bouncing all over the place. But I'm excited because a lot of people, when they say depression, they just mean normal sadness, right?
Hmm.
So you go through the loss of a loved one,
Hmm.
you get a bad test or something like that. A lot of things can just make you feel sad. Clinical depression is a lot. I shouldn't say a lot different, but it's more significant in that. So we're gonna look at a period of 2 weeks, right? And over those period of 2 weeks, for the most part of the time, you might have sleep problems, right? You're gonna have a lack of interest. They call it anhedonia, which means a lack of interest in doing things. You used to
Hmm.
like to play ball. Now all of a sudden you don't want to do it anymore.
Hmm.
You might feel more guilt than normal that's not warranted for the situation. Your
Hmm.
energy is going to decrease. Your concentration decrease.
Hmm.
Appetite's going to fluctuate, either go up and down,
Hmm.
right? Another big one is going to be suicidal ideation.
Hmm.
So, and this is not, I'm a clinician or whatever, but I don't want anyone to go back and start saying, oh, well, I tick all the boxes, because I would never diagnose somebody without formally speaking. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's what clinical depression is, as opposed to feeling low or blue or down in the dumps for a little bit.
Got you. And let's say somebody watching this is feeling those symptoms and things of that nature. What should their first steps be?
It's interesting because the first thing that popped up in my mind was try to go to a therapist, but that's a very privileged position I'm in. I
Right.
know other therapists. I know how, I have a network so I can find people and all that stuff. The average person is scary to reach out to a therapist,
Hmm.
right? So the first step I would say is reach out to somebody you like and trust,
Hmm.
right? It's a lot different than just everyday friends, because everyday friends, they're great, but they may not, they may be judging a little bit more. They may not be understanding. They may
Hmm.
be waiting just for you to stop and say, oh, well, get over that because you've done X,
Right.
Y, Z. And in that moment, when you're in a sensitive position, you don't need to
Hmm.
hear that. So my
Right.
first step would be reach out to somebody you like and trust. And then from there, you keep going through the channels, right? So
Hmm.
let's say they're not giving you the adequate support that you need. I would say probably just Google, right? I'm feeling this way. What are some support lines I could reach out to?
Hmm.
Then from there, therapy. But I would say first, reach out to a good, trusted friend.
Got you.
Yeah,
And let's say they do that first step, and now they want to reach out to a therapist. How do they do that? How do they, like, what? How do they even research a therapist? What do they look? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And this is where it gets very confusing
Hmm.
because, and I feel really bad about, the industry I'm in, because there's a lot of consumer confusion. I was going to say misinformation. It's not
Hmm.
misinformation. It's just so much information, right?
Right.
Now, the idea of psychotherapy, counseling, Psychotherapy means talking professional. Okay. Underneath that umbrella, there are many people who profess or proclaim to be talk therapists. You can have some pastors that do it, and not saying they're less qualified, but I'm just so people understand. You have psychologists that do it. You have counselors, mental health counselors like myself, social workers that do it, marriage and family therapists that do it. There's a whole bunch, right? So, in order to go research for one, I say the first is probably one thing you can look at is called BetterHelp.com because they connect you with licensed professionals. All right. The next thing, of course, is Google, but Psychology Today is another one. And what you're doing is you're not going with a very rigid goal like today I'm gonna find a therapist. You kind of want to look at it like, all right, I'm just gonna look at some profiles and see what these people are about,
Right.
how they advertise themselves, right? So you just look through a variety of profiles, okay? And
Mhm.
maybe later we can get into like the different types of therapists or whatever.
Yeah.
But you want
Yeah.
to find
Definitely.
someone who's licensed. Yeah. So
Okay.
life coach, I love them. I love them. I did coaching before I got into being a therapist. I was a public speaking coach. That's where I wrote the books and did all that stuff and training and all that. But a licensed professional is a lot different, right? So you want to look for someone who's licensed, specifically, hopefully, in your state, and then read through their profiles, see what resonates with you. Then from
Right.
there, reach out. Most of us have like a 10 or 15-minute consultation.
Mhm.
And it's not some kind of sales pitch where we're just trying to get you through the door so we can kind of sell you on therapy. It's number
Yeah.
one to see if you like us and see if we like you too, right?
Mhm.
So that's how I go about it. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
wanna
Marty. Yeah, I was about to
real
say
quick,
Marty.
yeah. I was gonna say, going back to what you said when you were talking about yourself, right?
Yeah,
You said something to me that clicked because this is similar to stuff that me and Trey spoke about a couple times already. When you said that like you were a ticking time bomb, but it was really just because you were scared.
yeah,
So you were like maybe like overcompensating or doing a lot to basically protect yourself. And I think it's very important
yeah,
that whether you notice that then or you noticed it after a while, that we be honest with ourselves and in tune with these things because we I don't like a episode we had recently, and we were talking about like how we grew up and certain things we did. You didn't realize that some of these things you were doing, you thought you were doing it to be real or X, Y, and Z. But when you look back at it, no, you were afraid, or no, you were actually a
Yes.
hater. Like you were a hater.
Right.
Like it's some of the
yeah,
stuff that we did that was so stupid, but we thought we were doing it for a good reason in a sense.
Mhm.
yeah.
But it's just like, nah, you was just being a hater. You were actually afraid. You were actually afraid. It was certain things.
Mhm.
Right.
So like, it's important that we notice these things because
Mhm.
like even as adults, people do things and don't realize why you're doing it. And
It's
it's
so
just
true.
like when me and Trey spoke about this a while back as well about, especially as black men, all right? We skip so many emotions to get to say we are angry or you feel played, and it's like nah, you are
Yeah.
actually hurt. You're
Yeah.
actually hurt. Like we skip so many things
Yeah.
and just go with the end result and say and that's what you're on. It's just like
Uh-huh.
no, if you're honest with yourself and peel it back, think about what actually happened. You're not just angry. You're
Mhm.
hurt. You're hurt. Whatever. Something you feel let down. You're disappointed. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
Yeah.
like, we're not honest with a lot of these things. So whether you realize it in the moment or you realize it later on, I think it's good that we recognize these things about ourselves.
No,
What
absolutely.
you said
I
is so important. No, go ahead, Trey.
no, no, no. Go ahead, bro. You the guest.
Because you see
You
what
got the
you just
floor.
said there. As me as a clinician, right? When people say anger management or working through a whole host of problems, like you're not a clinician, I don't think, but what you just said there is just so profound because this is what we're doing. It's not 0 to 100. There's all these little micro steps, and I'm
Yes.
helping people realize that. Okay, well, I just got angry and I flipped the table. No, let's look back at it. Normally, when people get angry, they start clenching their jaw.
Mm-hmm.
They might say that their face is heating up. They start balling up their fists. Some people start pacing. Just helping them realize all that kind of stuff and the emotions where you hurt and you
Mm-hmm.
feel played before you got to this. So I think that's important.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Because I'll just in full transparency, like I had when I was talking about my anger in therapy, like I started to like explain it like a balloon. Like it's like, and it's in my chest. Like I can physically feel it. Like, and it's just my thoughts pumping my own chest up. You get what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah,
right because it's a process to get to it, and the fear aspect is so true. And I want to be transparent about this for anybody that's watching who has known me for years and has known me also to be aggressive.
yeah,
It was fear based because when you think about it, I'm going 100% because if I don't snuff him, somebody gonna say, "Oh, Trey, let that rock," and then now I got to deal with that situation, and now I got to deal with the questions about my rep or the questions about who I am as a man. That's all fear-based shit. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah,
took a while for me to understand that. Like, nah, bro, you don't need to be afraid no more. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
you not there. You know what I mean? So that's mad important. But
You know
another,
what's crazy?
go ahead, bro.
I'm real quick too. Especially like where we come from, right? Things that we've seen, things that we've been involved in, right?
Hmm.
I can tell you, majority, like speaking of like brawls or like even like people in shootouts, stuff like that that's happening, right? Majority of the times that I've seen people fire weapons,
Absolutely,
it
Cope.
was it was out of being afraid or out of I literally seen people pull out and fire because they heard shots. They don't know where the shots is coming from, or it's not directly at you. It's just a crowded place. They just pulled out. So it's like it's a being scared.
Yep.
People are scared, and they kind of just skip the fact that you're really scared, or it's like you don't want to admit that you're scared because
Hmm.
you feel like it's gonna be less than or something like that. But it's just like we have to be honest with it. Like you know what it is. Like you know what I mean. So like we just not
I
honest
gotta.
with ourselves.
But the thing is, I think the underlying thing though, maybe
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask y'all, cause
Yeah,
like when niggas say, "Oh, you don't understand street niggas," and etc. etc. And street niggas may understand why this person may let off the shots or why he fired on this guy, or whatever, because they know that underlying fear it took to overcome that fear to let off. I'm
mm,
starting to really put it together now. You get what I'm
that,
saying? And it's a unspoken thing between us that the courage is fear based. So the fact that you were courageous enough to do that, I understand the fear. That's OD. Now you said you told me something
yeah,
earlier that you work with like at-risk youth and things of that nature.
yeah,
How's that been for you?
yeah. And you know what's interesting? I noticed I'm not much of like a self promoter, so I would never like come out and just when you asked me to introduce myself, I don't even know if I mentioned it, but
Hmm.
I started what I think is the only think tank in New York City, and we expanded to Denver, that treats gang affiliated children from a clinical perspective, right?
Wow.
So most of the research says, here's how you treat them, put them in jail. That's the easy solution. Or let's teach
Right.
them how to get out of gangs, right?
Hmm.
And then what I'm saying, me and the clinical psychologist that we started, is that that's not very helpful. Okay, look how many people you locked up and we still have the issues going on.
Right.
Brooklyn is on fire right now,
It's
right?
on
Yeah,
fire.
right.
The
So
past year.
so what we're doing is looking at, okay, let's not say get them out of the gang or incarcerate them, but let's look at the distorted thinking or unhelpful thinking. I'm
Hmm.
start using like clinical jargon, right? So you got upset, you got up and went and did something, or
Hmm.
you reacted or responded a certain kind of way. What was going through your mind at that time?
Hmm.
Treating them as humans, and is something I'm real passionate about. So yeah, it's been
Right.
very good, and I understand it. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You know where we come from.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
it's dope to me. It's so important for you to be in that space, and also starting this think tank. That's so powerful on different levels because we do need new solutions. And what's happening is, like you said, we're just kind of throwing them away. That's what we do. We throw them in the trash. All right, this one's in a gang. He murdered somebody. Get him the fuck out of here. We don't.
yeah.
We
Right.
don't see it. As long as we don't see it, as long as we don't see it, we're fine. You know what I mean? But I've been asking the question, like, what exactly is a criminal? You know what I'm saying? What is a criminal? Let's really look at what criminality is. You know what I'm saying? What exactly is a criminal? So the fact that y'all as clinical physicians are starting to tackle that aspect is huge. It's
Yeah,
huge because now it kind of takes that criminality and turns it on its head because now you have to ask why. And I don't think they want to ask why. You know what I mean?
not at all.
If they
Uh-huh.
ask why, that's more resources. They gotta give you more resources.
Yeah.
So
And
I
then
wanted
yeah,
to
and
go
it's
ahead, go ahead.
that, but it's like people start realizing like, yo, this could be my child. You understand?
Uh-huh.
They're not just those people. This
Mm-hmm.
could be my brother. It's not just a black thing. If you look in certain like suburban, it could be done extensive research on it. Say
Right.
white neighborhoods, right? If you look at the UK's, it's going on over there, Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
it's all over the place. But people
Right.
treat it just black and brown problem. So yeah,
Absolutely. So another part of this conversation I wanted to have. Now, you as somebody that's a clinical physician, you also been to therapy, correct?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
So in as a black man, right? It's
Yeah,
hard to say we need help and then go to therapy. how were you able to how were you able to be honest with yourself and then go actually take action to
And
go?
it's like if you have like a golden book that you pick it. You see the book, you looking at it, man. These are great questions you ask. So for me, the way it happened, I
Hmm.
did like a skater route. So I was in grad school, right, at
Hmm.
Columbia, and they said in order to be, I'm highly ambitious, which is to a
Hmm.
fault, right?
Hmm.
And I'm always like, what I want to be the best at this, even in corporate America. So I said, how do you become the best therapist? They said, honestly, you got to be in supervision, and great therapists are in therapy themselves. We're
Hmm.
not telling you you have to do it, but it's a little bit. Then they start kind of like putting a little guilt thing. I'm like, all right, that's how I become the best. I'm gonna go do it.
Hmm.
So that was my excuse because at the time back then when I was doing it, I don't know if I would have brought myself to, hey, I'm feeling a
Hmm.
certain way, let me go do it. But
Hmm.
I went in there, and Columbia had like 5 or 6 sessions that were free,
Hmm.
and just from the first session, she just allowed the space for me to talk, and that was cathartic, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of words we're gonna use, but cathartic. It's still very, very good. By the time the fifth or sixth session said, she said, you know what? It seems like you would benefit from some more long-term treatment because you have deep existential questions, and I'm heated. Are you trying to say I got a problem? Then I'm a clinician now, right? And I'm thinking, like, you trying to say I got a problem? What you mean I need long-term treatment? All right. And I remember, like, because in therapy, a lot of
Hmm.
dynamics happen. Like, my inner child came out and said, don't worry,
Right.
you'll never see me again. I said something like, oh, weird, like, don't worry, you'll never see me again. She said, no, no, no. You can come back for 1 or 2 sessions. No, no, no. It's okay. I'm gone. Right? It was weird, whatever. But I went and I seeked it out, and I'm still in there,
Hmm.
just to be completely honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna
So
say real
that.
quick too.
Now, go ahead, Marty.
Hold on. Because it's funny what you say that because I always thought to myself, therapists must have therapists because we're regular people, right? I went through a phase I told Trey this before too. I went through a phase in my life where a lot of people I know come to me for stuff, right? I remember it being one point in my life where I felt the most down. It wasn't my own issues.
Hmm.
It was everybody else's issues.
Right.
So I was just like, yo, how do therapists listen to everyone and help everyone? I'm like, they have to go to therapy too because they have
Hmm.
so many people's thoughts in their own head, so many people's issues in their head as well. And it's like I'm like, so I always wondered. I'm like, yo, they have to go. You must have to go to therapy because obviously you're a therapist, but you have your own issues as well. So I'm like, you have to speak to somebody too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I have a question too. Like, especially okay, black men. What is a you think is like a major misconception of going into therapy, like that men have, like going into therapy, like as
I
far
think,
as like
yeah.
yeah.
No, I think because one of my good friends, he passed away now, but Q, he had
Rest
mentioned
in
one time,
peace,
he said,
Q.
I think therapy, yeah, he said, I think, the reason they call it therapy, he's brilliant. He said, because they rape your brain before, anything like that. So I think
Yo,
the
rest in peace,
consensus
Q,
is,
man. That's my guy, yo.
yeah, you know how brilliant he is. So
He's
I'm like,
yeah.
well, how do you think the word? So a lot of people have the thought process that you're gonna come in, lay on a couch. Sometimes that happens, but not often. And that people are just gonna probe you, right? And I
Yeah.
thought it was just gonna be like this. So Steve, you seem very angry right now. Why do you feel that way? And me at the time, I'll be a live wire. Like I couldn't take that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're not gonna sit there point out the obvious and it's just try to poke at a wound or whatever. So
Right.
people have the thought that you're gonna go in there and they're just gonna be probing at you and trying to pull something that's not there. So
It's
yeah, those are the
okay.
common. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got you. Got you.
Okay.
I was gonna ask too. Now, for me, like the hard part in therapy was, like you said, the feeling of expressing myself was cathartic, but actually expressing myself, it took time for me to let go of everything I was holding in. Did you experience that? Like, how was that for you?
So for me, I think because I was so bottled up
Hmm.
and I was very destructive for a very long time. You understand?
Hmm.
So I think because the difference was because I was in that setting where you're like, oh, this is recommended to be a good therapist. It was a little bit easier for me,
Hmm.
but that's very common too because you got to trust the person.
Right.
In those situations, what I do, like if y'all haven't checked out Trey's music, you have to. I think he's very brilliant. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Very, very brilliant. So one of the things, if you were my client, which you can't, it's a conflict of interest, but
Right.
I would have you come and dissect all those lyrics. Oh, we looking at it together, man. You
Hmm.
you want to be monosyllabic or not say too much? Let's look at the music together, right?
Yeah.
So If people are holding back, I'm gonna find what they love. I try to enter people's world, right? Really
Mm.
figure out what they like. Like I wrote an article recently about kids, not to go off on a tangent. They love
Now go
Roblox.
ahead.
So what I did for 3 months, I became an undercover Roblox player, man. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like a child, like going in, 'cause I want to enter their world. So if somebody's not speaking, I'm gonna try and find other avenues, and I think creativity is important when you're finding a therapist.
Yo, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea right there, yo. That's a brilliant because honestly, now that I'm thinking, like, I think that's kind of how my therapist got me to open up because like I was very mono. She was like, you know, how you feel? I'm like, I'm okay. Da da da. She's like, all right, because I went to the one you suggested me to, the black guy. He
Yeah,
was cool. I just didn't go back. I just wasn't in a space where I was able to be that honest with myself.
gotcha.
So it took me a few months to go back. I went to some white lady. I didn't like her. Went to some next white lady. Didn't like her. And then I went to the lady that I still deal with now.
Yeah,
And she was like, "Yo, what do you like? What are you into? Like, what do you do? Let's start there.
yeah,
What do you do?" I was like, "Right now, I'm in music." Da, 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 da. She was like, "Okay. Would you share with me? Would that be something you would share with me?" She was like, I was like, "Yeah, I would." She was like, "All right, so do it." And I gave her a little. She was like, "All right, that's good." Da 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 da. So we started to really build about music. We didn't even talk about me no more. We just started to talk about music, and we started to build that relationship. I mean, it was. I look back and it was like, damn, I wasted bread because I could have just been on. You know what I'm saying? Because now I got to pay for another session to get to the shits. But we just used this session to really build. But it was important because now it's like we have a friendship where it's like if not even a friendship but a relationship to where it's like if I don't see her in a while she'll hit me up like, hey, how you been? You know what I mean? You might need to come check in because I haven't heard from you in a while. And usually when I don't hear from you in a while, it's because you blah 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 because she knows me now because I was
yeah.
after that conversation I was able to really let it go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think for me, one of the main things I had to learn was a lot of stuff that was bothering me, I was just holding on to it. And it was like I'm trying to add more stuff as I'm getting older and adult, but I still got a handful of trauma. You know what I'm saying? And it's like at some point you got to let it go. You know what I mean?
I,
I figured out that I was I was so self confident and assured, but I found confidence in victimhood and blaming
mm,
everything else. You know what I'm saying? And I found comfort in being a victim and being angry and things of that nature. And it was like, Duke, if you say you all of this, you can't be a victim. You can't victimize yourself. You know what I'm saying? You got to grow from here. So that shit was mad important to me because, like I
yeah.
said, that relationship and what you just said, that relationship was so pivotal for me to change my life. You know what I mean? So it's dope you're doing that.
Let me jump in. 'Cause I want to ask you a question, right?
What's
So
up?
2 points. My attention could. So wasted. You said talk about wasted bread, and then also about didn't like her. Those are my keywords, right? So
Yeah.
wasted time. It's interesting that you mentioned that, and I think she was very tactful in using the sessions that you may call it wasted, but and I want everybody that's listening to understand this. If you get people to open up too quickly and they're not ready, they could re-traumatize themselves. And when I first read it in the
Mm,
textbook, I'm like, ah, this is what are you talking re-trauma? But then I've seen it. So you want to
mm,
look at it as like this is a person who's very skilled. They knew what they were doing, and now look, it's a long-term relationship, right? So that's the first
mm.
point. Second point, you spoke about the fact that you didn't like I think two of the therapists that you went to. Could you
Right.
speak to that? Because a lot of
Sure.
like, how do I know if I got a good therapist? I'm like, yo, you gotta. It's a feeling thing, and I go to about what was it for you?
For me, it was the first lady was asking me guided questions, like she already knew the answer. You get what I'm saying? And it was
Yeah,
an air of like she was an authority. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of like she was guiding the conversation to what she already assumed that I was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And whether it was right or wrong, I didn't feel like she was listening. And as I was speaking, I found myself second guessing what I was saying because I was questioning if she was listening. So the natural connection just wasn't there. And the second one, why didn't I like her? I just think I just wasn't really feeling the vibe. I just think the energy wasn't where I needed it to be, or it was just her, like, or me. I don't know, but we didn't click, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just try again. Because at this point, I was like, I gotta get better, and I'm gonna be honest about how I feel. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't like this person, but I need to find a therapist, and then I found this one. Yeah.
unspoken. How do you even? it's not something you can necessarily write down, but that's what it is. It's
Mm.
that feel that you get that vibe, like, all right, this person, one that was asking leading questions, I think that's horrible. This part about, that authority figure, I
Mm.
spoke earlier, and I don't want to, if I'm talking too much today, I'll be quiet. You know what I'm saying, yo,
Mm.
want to hear this? You
Yeah,
try,
no,
try to,
go, bro.
yeah.
We
So,
got you here. You the guest. Go
nah,
off. Yeah.
I'm hoping that somebody's going to listen to this and just understand. It's like that authority thing. The problem in our field, there's a whole host of problems, is that you see PhD, right?
Mm.
Psychologist, PsyD, PSYD. That's a
Yeah.
psychological doctor, which is a little bit different, but both
Mm.
psychologists, psychiatrists, some who are trained in giving talk therapy. So they got the MD, they
Mm.
give medicine or whatever, but they can do talk therapies. They get additional training and all these other stuff, right? Now, a lot of people come in and they want to say, Mr. Steve, Dr. Steve. First of all, I'm not a psychologist. I can't be referred to that way, but I just want people to call me Steve. You understand?
Mm. Mm.
Because if already I'm on this, you're putting me on this kind of pedestal, yeah, it might be cool for 2 or 3 sessions, but how, at what point are you going to feel comfortable coming and say, yo, hey, I just did something really crazy over the weekend? It's like, nah, because you're looking at me as some kind of someone who's higher than you, and I strive to not
Mm.
have that. Good point.
Right. Absolutely.
I was going to say what you said was because I was going to ask this question and well, what Trey said it. I think one issue when I brought up the whole thing about people's perceptions of therapy, one thing with people, I think especially with men as well, is that you got to be. I think you have to be honest with yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
because people will go into therapy not being honest and thinking you're going to solve something or thinking somebody's not doing their job. If you're in there lying or still like wearing a shield or whatever the
Ralph, what's
case is,
good, Ralph?
and not really telling the truth or whatever, people can't help you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
People can't speak to you because you're not revealing anything, or
Mm-hmm.
you're guarded. So like what you said was important, Trey, because like you had to be honest, and that's for that you had to be honest in order for your therapy sessions to work and for you to get to
Yeah,
where you are.
definitely. Definitely. The question I had was, so I see that a lot of people don't necessarily understand the field and the functions. You get what I'm saying? So you said you're a clinical.
Yeah, I'm a licensed mental health counselor,
All right,
LMHC.
cool.
But
Right.
I
So
started
some
with
people will say,
psychotherapist. Yeah,
yeah, some people like it would be like therapy, psychologist, and that.
yeah,
Can you speak to what those are and the
yeah.
functions, like what they
Right.
actually do, and like I don't. When you answer those two questions, like the what psychology therapists, all of those things are, and what do they do?
I love those questions, man. And I know there's probably gonna be a professional that wants to attack me afterwards, and it's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But we need to have these conversations because there are people that's going on saying like, "Oh, this is better than this, and this is better than that." I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna try and do my best off the cuff, understanding or try to give you all an understanding of what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, psychotherapy, the easiest way to put it is talking professional,
Mm-hmm.
right? Talking cure, someone who sits across from you, they're talking, they give you psychotherapy. That's the psychotherapy, right? Now, underneath that branch, you have many different professionals who do talk therapy. You have psychologists. The difference between psychologists and the rest is they usually have more training for sure. They go to school for a very long time, but where they really have a lot more training, PhDs now, is in testing, evaluations. They do a lot more research,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're coming for talk therapy, listen to what I said: testing, evaluation, research, right? It may not be necessarily what you need. So some people are like, I need a psychologist. You want someone who's very, very trained in talk therapy. Now, clinical psychologists, they do a lot of training in hospitals and all that kind of stuff. My impression is that they usually work with the most serious, they call it SPMI,
Mm-hmm.
severe and persistent mental illness, the
Mm-hmm.
schizophrenias of the world,
Mm-hmm.
bipolars. And I'm not talking about like schizophrenia, I'm talking about like usually when people are hospitalized. That's what they
Mm-hmm. Got you.
specialize in. Then you have mental health counselors like myself. We specialize in talk therapy, right? The difference between us and the rest is that we're trained really in individual counseling,
Mm-hmm.
really one to one. You have licensed clinical social workers.
Mm-hmm.
They also do one-on-one counseling, but their roots. Not saying that anyone is better than another, because I know some horrible mental health counselors, some great social workers, but the social workers, their root is really in looking at societal dysfunction. Okay, so you're feeling depressed. Let's look at what's going on in society, right? Which is different.
Mm-hmm.
License and marriage and family therapy. Just like what the name would suggest, they also do one-on-one talk therapy. They're also amazing. but their root, what they really study is marriage, family systems. You understand? And I'm sure I'm missing another one out there, but there's many. And you have pastoral counseling. They
Got you.
also do counseling. Right. So
Got you.
I don't know if that
All right.
helps.
No, it does. So this now it'll help me ask the follow-up question. So let's
Right.
say you have, so do you go to the same person to if you have anxiety or if you have depression? Like, how do you know which one to go to? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is why it's so important to read their profiles, because people will broadcast to try to display what they have extensive training in. All
Hmm.
right. When you say anxiety, depression, and I'm happy you mentioned it because that's a very common thing among black men.
Hmm.
Most of us are trained that way. All
Right.
right. Most of us are trained anxiety, depressions, trauma. Not a lot you get the additional training, but anxiety, depression. You really want to look at their profile to see what do they specialize in. If they
Hmm.
don't have a profile for some reason, you can ask them. Ask
Right.
them.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. And you said so anxiety and depression is something that's prevalent within black men. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. Because I was trying to think. I'll be real with you. I told you already that I believe I was going through clinical depression. And if you
Hmm.
ever want to know what that looked like for me, I'll tell you. But
Not good. Let us know. Yeah, definitely. Let us know and then go
mine
into
was,
that
and I've
insight.
never shared this publicly, but like I said, my main thing, if I never come back on the show or, if there's something happening to me tonight, I want people to know that this type of stuff. So mine was intense suicidal ideation
Hmm.
for a long period of time, right?
Hmm.
And when someone has suicidal ideation, if you come to talk to me as your clinician, I'm going to look for frequency. How often is it happening? Intensity.
Hmm.
So how intense is it on a scale of 0 to 10? Is it something that you could push out of your mind? That kind of stuff. Duration, how long is it lasting for? If it's
Hmm.
something that's passing quickly through your mind and going, not as bad as if it's like 3 hours, 4 hours,
Hmm.
the whole day, right? So speaking about anxiety, depression with black men, there's studies that show that black people in general expect life to be hard for them.
Hmm.
And that was very telling for me. Because then now it's like the clinical literature is saying that black people, this is people who may feel they're woke or not woke and all that type of stuff. Black people in general have an expectation or they feel like life is going to be a little bit harder for me. And
Hmm.
I felt the same way too.
Got you. So that's where it stems from within black males, like the expectation that life is going to be harder.
That's one of it. Then of course you
Okay.
got trauma, you
Hmm.
know. Um in a lot of stuff. There's a lot, but that's a big one.
Hmm.
Expectation that life is going to be a little bit hard for me if I'm going for that position. You
Hmm.
know, even people that want to pretend like, oh, racism doesn't exist and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. They know those people that talk like that. They know when they put on that suit to go in front of an employer, they know
Right.
it's going to be a little bit harder. And even
Got
if
you.
it's not overt racism, it's still like there's still a feeling of like, yeah, I gotta this game time, I gotta perform.
Right.
Or this might be the only opportunity, all that kind of stuff. So,
Got you. So as a black male in your position, right?
right.
Another black male walks into your office. How do you make him feel comfortable enough to open up to you? Because
I think we spoke on, yeah.
the natural inclination is for me to see you, and you're my competition. Because that's how
Yeah.
we are. You know what I'm saying?
Huh?
You either competition or a threat. You know what I'm saying? So to walk into like, all right, I'm about to tell this other dude who's my competition and a threat to me, my business. You know what I'm saying? It's a different dynamic of what we grew up as black men. To go to a black man and then give him the keys. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
how do you get that, like, lay that foundation for them to open up to you?
There is so much, and I'm gonna toot my horn a little bit,
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
like I do have it naturally a little bit, but
Hmm.
honestly, so this is gonna sound. I don't want to get too technical with it, but I want to
Hmm.
share it because y'all may be working with children, right, in some capacity, and you
Right.
have resistant people, and you want to talk with them, or whatever. This is where self-awareness comes into place. So just what you said is so important about us as black men. It's like to size each other up and like
Hmm.
competition threat. Me, I have to understand that. I
Hmm.
can't be like say, oh, this doesn't exist. Oh, this is just a person. No, that exists. People are telling me like, Steve, when I first came, I was sizing you up, man. I had to see what it was about.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I got to make sure my whole physiology, so to speak, I had to make sure all my micro expressions, my facial expressions is not mimicking that first inner reaction, which is to like fight, like, yo,
Hmm.
I'm here.
Hmm.
So if I didn't have that self-awareness, when you come to see me, I'm looking at you like this. Okay, Trey, so tell me about that. But there you can see it, right? Like you
Yeah.
can see I'm bolding,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
now I
Yeah.
know to soften the face a little bit. So
Uh-huh.
now they see I'm like, they know they can come in with the ego and they're like, I'm not getting it back from Steve. He's not a person that's gonna sit there and try to, who's whatever is bigger, the measure
Yeah,
in
yeah.
contest. whatever. It's not gonna be that there.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you want to bring, I'm here for you. So that's how I do it. And then we get a little bit deeper where I really explore strengths first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't the people that come in and they say, "Yo, Steve, I think I have this." You'd be surprised. People go on Google and tell you whatever, and I say, before
Yeah.
we get to that, what's good about you? Like, like tell me what you're good at. Because
Yeah.
that's the basis of everything. That's going to be your coping skills, how you build
Mhm.
resilience, all of that. So that's how I do it.
Oh, that's dope. That's beautiful. Chat, if y'all have any questions for Steve, type them in the chat and I'll be sure to ask them.
Yeah,
So for me, I'm gonna ask you a question. So like advice for me. You know what I'm saying? Advice for me. So in dealing with like anger and conflict, right? I always have this. Now that I don't have the aggressive approach, I have a very hands-off approach, but it's still that aggression is still there. How do I resolve that? Like what are some tools to resolve that within myself so that I can always maintain my peace, although my peace was staying away from the conflict, but I'm still having that inner conflict.
yeah. So this is going to be, I'm so happy you mentioned that. And this is where
Mm-hmm.
I differ from, I guess, a lot of therapists. So the first thing I tell you is that I don't see that as an issue that needs to be resolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is not just being like, oh, whatever. I know you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know how ambitious you are, the high levels of productivity and performance that you're able to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that comes from anger.
Mm-hmm.
Me knowing you, it's like, no, bro to
Yeah.
bro now. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's something that you need to resolve, but
Mm-hmm.
just manage. So when you're feeling it, that's like just an alarm system. Doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
got to act on it.
You're right.
And
Right.
the next thing I would tell you too is that the person that says like, oh, they're completely at peace, they're lying to you. You got to run away from this. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. I told you today I'm peaceful because I'm not experiencing some of those symptoms I said before in
Mm-hmm.
life. Also told you I'm overwhelmed because I got to be real with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I say is just don't see that as a problem that needs to be resolved. There's nothing wrong
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Got you. Got you. Got
Yeah.
you. That's dope. And go ahead, Marty. Go ahead, Marty. You was about to
I
say
was
something.
gonna say what you just said. What I think was important too, because we tend to think that like these feelings and emotions are just it, in terms of like you get it and it's gonna last forever.
Mm-hmm.
So like what you just said about peace, I've like when I was since I was younger, it's certain things like the way I react to things. I look at things. I look at life like this. Since I was younger, I always wanted to understand everything. I wanted to know what peace was. Like I was weird. So like it's stuff like that. I was like looked into, like I always looked into, read about and stuff like that. So
Vicky.
I learned early in the sense of that I looked at it like, okay, if I can't control it, I got to try to not let it get to me too much
Mm-hmm.
because it's out of my control. So I learned quickly that the only things I can actually control are me.
Mm-hmm.
So I worry about that.
Lee.
So then when it comes to peace, I realized
My
like,
dog
okay,
Lee.
I want to be at peace, but I realized peace means different things
Mm-hmm.
at different points in time for me.
Absolutely.
And I try to explain that to people as well because we think you okay, I'm gonna get to peace and it's just gonna be at no. What was being at peace for me 2 years ago ain't peace for me right now. What I thought was being at peace was 3 months ago ain't what it is right now. So it's like
Yep.
it it stopped being like something trying to get to it and more so doing the work of trying to feel like making sure you feel how you feel or making sure you accept certain things that's happening. Okay, but what can I do to make sure I don't feel like
Right.
I don't want to feel like in a sense,
Right.
Got you. Got you. All right, we got a question in the chat, man. Um, so Colton says, "How do I give more self grace when it comes to myself? I'm not the best with encouraging myself sometimes. I like to hear maybe some techniques to not immediately go to tearing myself down."
Good one. That's a good one. So I would say Colt was probably in a better position than 95% of the population because he recognizes it. You
Mm,
understand? That's that. So self awareness is like the. And I saw that. I watched one of your episodes and y'all mentioned it. It is. That's what it is to notice it. And
mm,
now, as far as self praise, we got to ask ourselves some questions, right? Not necessarily tools, but what am I benefiting from automatically ripping myself apart? All right. And then what do I have to gain by looking at it from the opposite perspective? Because just like you're saying that you rip yourself apart, you don't have to do that. But I
mm,
think for Cope, maybe it might be more of like a natural instinct kind of thing.
mm,
We say, what's the benefit in keeping this, and what can I gain from looking at it differently? So I'm gonna give a quick thing, right? There's something called a cognitive model, right? And that just says very simply that your thoughts impact your feelings, and your feelings impact your behavior. Thoughts, feelings, behavior, right? So now
Mm,
people will say, "Yo, I'm angry," right? But it's not. It
mm.
doesn't start that way. It's usually it's a thought like, "Yo, he played me," right?
Yep.
Then that leads to anger, and the anger leads to the punch in the face, whatever, right? But it's not. Let's take it a step further now. And if I'm
Hmm.
talking too much, let me know. But
No, you're
but
good. Do
I
your thing.
I really feel like people should say this stuff more. So here's thoughts, feelings, behavior. Then it's our perception of that thought or the situation that occurred, right? So you're saying he played me, right? Now, if I'm walking down the street with Trey, right, and I think Trey may have seen me when I was younger. I was way more aggressive. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And like a bit of like a live wire. I'm always on edge. He said I had a natural grit. That's what you would call it. I read
Yeah.
those words.
Yeah.
If I see somebody and I'm in inner turmoil and I see them looking at me, my automatic thought, feeling, behavior, thought is, he doesn't like me. Because at that time, I
Hmm.
don't really like myself, right?
Hmm.
That leads to feelings of anger, and the anger leads to something else.
Hmm.
But instead, just like I said, the thought, that automatic thought is, oh, he doesn't like me. It could be like, yo, he thinks my shoes are cool. It could be anything else. That's one way of looking at it, but there's always others. That's a long way of responding to the question.
No, no, no. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I have
Yeah,
another
especially
question,
the
which is
perception thing.
no. What you said?
I was
What you
just-
said, Marty?
No, I was just gonna say, especially perception thing, because I remember like when I was younger, I used to work overnight, right? And the manager used to, or supervisor used to be always be like, "Oh, perception is reality." And I was like, "No, it ain't." And they like we got into a debate about it one time. And I was like, "No, it ain't." I said, "Percept that's your reality. Just because you perceive something don't mean that's what it really is."
Yeah.
And we tend to think just because. I remember I started saying that's when I started thinking like, "Yo, everyone has their own reality in that sense." Because just because you perceive something one way don't mean that's what it is. So
Hmm.
sometimes you got to take a step back and look at what's actually going on and understand, and we don't do that. We
Yeah.
just say this is what it is because this is what I felt. And it's
Right.
like, yo, your feelings aren't reality all the time.
Right.
Just because you feel something don't mean that's what really happened.
Yeah.
You see, and you see what he said. So because I use something from cognitive behavioral therapy, they call CBT. Just because I think something, just because I feel something, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So if you in those moments you have that automatic thought like, oh, this person's doing this, they're trying to play me or whatever. There's always other ways of looking at it. So what I like to tell people, you look at worst case scenario,
Hmm.
best case scenario, and the most likely. So in a situation, we use the same thing. I see Trey, I'm walking on the block. Trey's looking at me. Worst case scenario, I did something to him in the past. He's trying to knock my head off, right? That's the
Hmm.
worst case scenario. Best case scenario, he noticed that I'm a person who needs so much help. He has $1 million and he's going to give it to me. Most likely, maybe he's just, you know, he knows me from somewhere or I might remind him of somebody. That's what it is in the middle,
Hmm.
right? So you look at worst, best, and then what's the most likely.
Mm.
And if
I
that,
got
yeah, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
If that's too much in the moment, because like, damn, I really sit there and think, one thing to ask yourself, what's another way of looking at it? So my immediate reaction might be, yo, he's trying to play me. Like,
Hmm.
what's another way of looking at it?
Yeah.
And then right there, now you have options. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah. So I was gonna ask. Wait. Well, hold on. I'm gonna touch on. Lee asked a great, great, great question, and it's not necessarily a question for you, but just a question in general. If your inner voice was an actual person and talked to you the way it usually does, would you enjoy the conversation and keep in touch with them? That's a beautiful, beautiful question because you have to talk to yourself with so much love. And I realized when I was going through my shit, it was because I was beating myself up and blaming myself for a lot and victimizing myself. So it was really was like you said, thoughts, feelings, behavior. Like I
Yeah.
have really had to change my thoughts to really start to control how I feel, and how I feel I was able now to manage my behavior a lot more, especially my anger. You know what I'm saying? So I was gonna ask this, right? Now, how do you, not as somebody that's going through it, how do you be an efficient support system for somebody that's going through it and hasn't taken the step to go into, therapy and things of that nature?
That's another good one. That comes up a lot in the black community, right?
Right,
So a lot
right,
of you
right.
may have some undiagnosed or something going
Mm-hmm.
on. So you gotta look and say, all right, what does support look like?
Mm-hmm.
First question, right? Because if support means to you, yo, I gotta sit there and stage an intervention. This is what I
Right.
gotta do. But to him, it's like, yo, I just want somebody to listen to me, man. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like at job, people's kicking me in the face and like, you know what I mean? Everything's
Mm-hmm.
going hard. No one listens to me. No one respects me. I just need you to be present with me. A lot
Right.
different. because now you're imposing your will on him where really he just needs somebody to listen. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, how do you go about supporting them before you get into therapy? Say, all right, what does support look like? And you have a conversation with them. Do
Mm-hmm.
you need me to listen? All right, I heard what you said. Is it okay if I offer some suggestions? Or you don't need some suggestions right now? But
Mm-hmm.
that's really what it is. A lot of times we make an assumption like, if I was in a situation, this is what I would like. And people are so nuanced, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's how to respond to it.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
That's really dope because sometimes for me, it's early on I found it difficult. Actually, I want to ask you something, and I found it difficult because I always have this question: is it a choice essentially to get your mental health right?
Hmm. Is it a choice? Rephrase it for me. So, is it a choice to get your
Like
mental health?
for
Or you mean like
example,
to
if
make a decision?
I'm if let's say I'm here's the I thought it was problematic of me to think this way. That's why I'm asking you. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
even asked my girl like, this is a problematic thought I had. Like for example, like for me, just using me, I'll use myself or whatever. Like let's say
Sure.
within my depression, I said, you know what? I need to get better. And then now I went and got therapy and I got better. You know what I'm saying? How I can't necessarily is in that sense, is therapy a choice for everybody? I don't think, you know what I mean? I think it's problematic to say it's a choice. So I'm asking just flat out,
Oh,
without me imposing what I think, do you believe getting your mental health in order is a choice in the grand scheme of things? And then more specifically.
yeah. No, that's such a great question because I'm hearing a lot. Meaning, like, is therapy for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Is therapy the solution? Because a
Right.
lot of people say, oh, we need to increase access to mental health services. And I love what they're saying. But they're saying, yo, if you remove a liquor store, and I'm going to keep it real, and replace every liquor store with a mental health clinic, all of a sudden things will change. People will not allow that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody's going to allow you. I'm keeping it real, right? I got to be
Mm-hmm.
honest here. So I think it is a choice and that everybody should have access to mental health support. It's not always going to look like a therapist. It
Mm-hmm.
may look different. But yeah, I think everybody should have the choice and that option to help with their mental health. One of the things that I wanted to do was, let's say you can't find any therapist you connect with. I think
Mm-hmm.
that interactive journaling is very important. Not just journaling. Oh, I feel this and that. That's okay. But interactive journaling.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I might come up with something in the future, like a journal for Black men or something, so that they could really, because journaling was a, a really powerful tool for me. But
Got
yes, I
you.
think everybody should. It's not always gonna look like therapy. Some people just have that wall up where it's like, yeah, I can't, you know. I wish we had therapists that look like Marty and Trey, and just like you, the laid back,
Mm-hmm.
non-judgmental. But
Right.
the reality, we don't have people like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we coming up on an hour, so I want to ask y'all a personal question. And so for you, Steve, and then for you, Marty, what's something that y'all are working on right now to get better at as Black men?
Marty, you go first, man.
Pressure.
Dedicate.
Um, I'm always gonna say my issue. I have two. I always tell people I have like two issues for me. One issue was always has been communication. The second issue is pride.
Hmm.
The second one I don't plan on changing, but that's neither here nor there. The first one I've been working on. I've been working on a lot.
Hmm.
And like the other day, I text Trey. I was like, "Yo, I appreciate you, whatever." I didn't say why. I don't think, but it was
Nah.
because I would say like I'm to myself person. I don't actually like speaking like that. I don't like. I stay to myself. I mind my business, and I don't bother me.
Hmm.
Trey show, and he literally like told me like, listen, I'm doing this show. The show is gonna happen, and I'm not doing it without you. So you doing it like, and I was just like, that's cute, but but one thing with this show, Trey kind of like forced me out of just I'm still reserved, but like Trey kind of forced me out into like okay, show like I'm trying to remember. I think he said something to me one time, but he was just like, because Trey always points out to me certain things that he told me that he got from me in a sense, and then he was just like, you can show people these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he kind of like pulled me out of a box just to like force me to, and then it also helps in my communication. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it helps. So like, so that's one thing I'm working on. Like I said, pride's gonna stay where it's at because
Hmm.
that's just who I
Right.
am. But like communication is one thing. I think I'm really getting better at it.
Hmm.
Because like, but I think my issue too, as far as like being a man, my issue with communication as well was I just don't like I mean, when I feel like it was important, I'll express myself. But a
Mhm.
lot of things I just don't bother expressing myself about because I don't think, not that it's not important, but I'm just like, why bother?
Right.
I have a thought in my head that whatever it is, that's just what it is for some situations. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I look at people. So I think the way I express myself with some people, it varies from person to person as well.
Mhm.
Because I look at people and I'm just like, no, this is just who you are. It makes no sense for me to say anything anyway.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like, but I think I've gotten better with it over over time. So
Got you.
that's one thing I'm always going to be working on. I feel okay.
Got you. What about you, Steve? You ready?
Yeah, here's something interesting, and I want to help people understand too. Self-awareness is important. So I noticed when you asked the question, I kind of went like this, right? And this is what I help people understand in therapy too. But it's like, yeah, damn, I don't want to answer this question, but no, I'm gonna answer this question.
Mhm.
I think there's two things. One more shallow than another. The shallow one is that with ambition, right? I say, okay, you didn't want to work in corporate America where you were doing because they told me like, oh, the hours are good, but I was working crazy, right?
Mhm.
But now I work 6 days a week in private practice. I have Sunday off. Or throughout the pandemic, that last year, 7 days a week. You understand? And it's not just one client. I'm talking about active. So the shallow one is to pull the brakes on that, and I'm getting a little bit better. The next one is the more deeper one is integration. I feel like there's a lot of parts to my personality. You know, Trey, right?
Mhm.
You know me probably more intimately than other people know, but I feel like a lot of people don't see that. The word I use is
Mhm.
a clown. I'm very playful,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people wouldn't see that. So just integrating all them aspects of myself, I'm getting better, but it's still a working process.
Yo, now go meow. What's good, man? What's good? Welcome, welcome, welcome to Montings. We're having a conversation about black men in therapy and just people in therapy in general. And right now the question I just asked is, as black men, what are these two gentlemen working on currently? I think for me, what I am working on is my increasing my threshold. Um, so like my what I've realized is, like you said, being that it took me almost 30 years to get to a point where I understood more emotions, like the wide variety and range of emotions, right? But with that came like a very short fuse of being able to deal with it. You get what I'm saying? So it's like if something crazy happens, then my shit is already at 80%, so everybody else is only getting 20%. You get what I'm saying? So right now what I'm trying to do is really increase that threshold, and I think it's going to take more vulnerability because, like I said, just and being vulnerable. Like my cousin recently passed, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I don't want nobody saying my condolences because I hate that shit. There's going to be
Yeah,
15,000 people saying my condolences, and that's not going to bring my cousin back. You get what I'm saying? So it's like,
you know,
I take things and I just compartmentalize it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still working on that. And yeah, it took me 30 years, like 30 years to really get like to understand emotions. Like I was very angry. Like I'm just, again, if you don't know me, like we're from Brooklyn. Like I used to gang bang. I used to do all of that shit. So I never created room for myself to embrace my emotions fully. You know what I mean? So it took me until, my late 20s to start really working on it. And at 30, I embraced it. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm just working on like increasing that threshold to be available for people. You know what I mean? Like to hear them more, to listen more, like crazy. You feel what I'm saying? So it was like I usually just like tap out sometimes. Like I don't got enough for that, and I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to give people a little bit more.
how about this, Trey? I'm gonna put the spotlight on you for a little
What's
bit.
up? Talk to me.
So, all right, how about your sleep, bro? Like, 'cause this probably somebody asked you off, but like, are you sleeping?
I don't sleep often. I don't sleep a lot. No.
Because this is the thing I'll tell you about. I am going to share, right? If I got to
Yeah.
deal with it after I deal with it. So, in my time in knowing Trey, I remember seeing him sleep once. You understand? And come from where we come from, I spent a lot of time with Trey. I saw him sleep once, and I remember I'm knocking on the window, like, Trey, like, he just would not wake up. And I remember kind of feeling sad a little bit, like, he hardly sleeps. When he does, it's like he's knocked out.
Hmm.
And I felt bad even, but, situation called, he had to wake up
Yeah.
at the time. But
Yeah.
so, that's something I want to ask you. Sleep hygiene is so important,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
And maybe you're one of those people that don't need sleep, but I would say for everybody, try to incorporate, that's like
Yeah,
one of
nah,
the,
I definitely do need to sleep more. I don't, because let me tell you why. Again, more vulnerability. It's like during the day, like I'm working. all day. You know what I'm saying? I do my first job, and then after that, I'm preparing for streaming. You know what I mean? So then once I get off stream, it's like, all right, cool, I got my night, but by that time it's 1, and then I look up, it's 5 a.m. You know what I'm saying? And I only got that 4 hours to really get to myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I sleep and then I wake up, I'm coming back to work. You know what I mean? So it's like I need those hours, but it's like I gotta manage that time a little better. But that's why I don't really sleep. You know what I mean? Because I just be needing that recharge time by myself. You know what I mean? Because if I
Okay.
wake up, if I go to sleep and I wake up and I gotta go right back to work, that's gonna fuck with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So how about this? No, and this ain't therapy for Trey, because you said increasing the threshold, right?
Hmm.
I'm wondering if we did a little experience, if you tried to sleep a little bit, I wonder if the threshold increased a little bit more. I
All
don't
right.
know. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna give it a shot. Vicky said, "Black don't crack." That's funny. She thought I was 24. I'm an old man, man. I'm about to be 33 in 2 weeks. I'm
Nah,
excited.
yo.
I'm excited. I'm excited. You know what's crazy too? And I told my therapist this, and she like it took her aback. Like I was like, I was turning 30, and she was like, "How do you feel about turning 30?" I was like, honestly, I'm excited, but the thing is like I never thought I would live to 30, so I don't know what to do. You get what I'm saying? Like it was like the world didn't, and I didn't mean it from a dark place, but it came out dark. What I would meant was it's like I'm in a place where I'm healed now, so the world is like my playground. You know what I mean? Like I want to do so much shit that these past 20 something years that I didn't get to do because of my ego and pride and thinking of how people look at me. Like I just want to live. You know what I mean? And that's just where I'm at right now. Like at 33 now, it's like, yo, these my golden years. I'm having a blast, my nigga. Like a blast, bro. But like we've been here for a little bit, man. Anything you want to leave them with, man? Anything you want to leave them with? Would have definitely tell them where to find you, but some gems or anything you want to leave them with.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say something real. This is my quirky side of the conversation. Don't delay, start today. I'm not
Hmm.
with all those things. Don't do the
Hmm.
but for real, I say it don't necessarily got to be therapy, but take an honest look at yourself. You
Hmm.
know, if life isn't going the way you want, there's all kinds of external things that go on, but maybe there could be something more, right? If it's not going the way you want, why not try? You know, look into a counselor if you have the means and are able to,
Hmm.
right? There's all types of places. If money is an issue, you could use insurance. Let's say you have insurance, but the person you like don't take the insurance. Say, hey, do you have out of network coverage?
Hmm.
Right? They'll sometimes reimburse you like 50 to 80% of what you're coming out of pocket for. So
Hmm.
try that. Um, I'm not a man of too much words, so I'll probably leave it there. As far as where to find me, my website is newyorkwellness.com, just nywellness.com. My Instagram is kind of non-existent. It's called the New York Wellness. I
Hmm.
mean, there's not much there. But can I say something about self-care?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Self-care for me, real quick, was a project in self-care. I'm not a social media kind of person,
Hmm.
but this project just started on Instagram was like self-care for me because my ambition level says, nah, you said you're gonna do it, get it up and running, and make sure you have all that type of stuff. But my self-care was okay. Now you're just gonna create the name.
Hmm.
Then you're gonna put the logo up. That might be 2 weeks later. It don't matter, right?
Right.
Then you might post one post, and I think I got one post that they're talking about this,
Hmm.
and that was my way of just saying, all right, that was my form of self care. So self care looks different for everybody. At that, I'm gonna stop rambling,
Hmm.
and also I have a book if y'all want to check it out.
Oh
If you ever
yes.
want to, yeah, if
Where can they find
communication
it?
is ever an issue, huh?
Where can they find it?
Amazon on Amazon, it's called Speak: A Simple Guide to Public Speaking. That was one skill that absolutely changed my life outside of therapy. Just the ability to communicate in ways that's more healthy, command an audience, right? For an
Hmm.
extended period of time, all that kind of stuff. So that's my piece. I'm really happy y'all invited me. For real.
Yo, I appreciate you coming, man. And I'm again, I'm a be transparent. Like it is so like amazing to see you in this spot. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm like immensely proud of you. You know what I mean? Cause like again, I remember when I first saw you and I saw your aura and I'm like, this kid is special. You know what I mean? And it's like I'ma toot my own horn like doot 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 like nigga you was right and you proved me right and you proved yourself right, you proved your parents right, your sister right, everybody around you right. You know what I mean? Like we all knew you were special, my man, and you doing the work that's needed. You know what I'm saying? So thank you, my brother. Thank you for the work you doing.
Yeah.
Marty, you got anything to leave him with?
Nope. Have a good night. I gotta go outside.
I feel you. But everybody else, man, thank y'all for pulling up to Montings. This video, the VOD will be available right after this. I'm putting out the podcast on the Haters Ball Show page. Yo, facts, Colton. He said, yo, we was all young, dirty Brooklyn niggas and we turned into roses. That's facts. That's facts. It's true. It's true though. It's true. We was all some dirty Brooklyn niggas, man, and we really just, trying to do better. And that's what this space is for. You know what I mean? Coming and having these conversations on how we got here, because it's crazy. Y'all see, you know what I mean? Y'all see us and y'all had these conversations. Y'all don't understand where we really came from to get here. And I think these conversations are important. You know what I mean? Especially if you see it, you see somebody with it, you could help a little brother. You know what I mean? You can help your cousin. It's just about that. It's not about us. It's about giving people the tools to help other black men reach to where we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, and still doing the work to get to. This is not a finished product. Again, I am no authority on mental health. This is why we're bringing the mental health experts here to really address these issues as well. So again, thank y'all for coming to Montings. Next week, same time, 8 p.m. We'll be having my brother Pascal, who's he suffered from clinical depression his whole life. So we're gonna get his